latest developments in the Middle East as seizing hostilities is the main demand of both regional and global mediators. And to shed more light on the latest developments in the U.S.-Iranian war, we are delighted to be joined by Dr. Yasser, Tantawy, international relations expert. Good morning, Dr. Yasser. So now, before starting our discussion with Dr. Yasser, we are going to watch this report on the latest developments in the region.
US President Donald Trump said Tuesday that the U.S. has no talks planned with Iran, but insisted the Strait of Hormuz remains open and operating, despite limited traffic and a reported strike on a ship exiting the waterway. Earlier this week, Trump also threatened to bomb Oman as the country sought a deal with Iran to manage shipping traffic through the strait. In response, Iran said the waterway will not be reopened until the U.S. meets its conditions. As talks between Iran and Oman continue, a projectile hit a ship in the strait, and Iran-backed Houthi rebels claim they fired drones at an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. As Oman and Iran say they are nearing a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, Trump said on social media Tuesday that the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports remains in full force and effect. Meanwhile, Trump posted a map depicting the strait as U.S. territory. The Trump administration has told Oman it opposes part of the yet-to-be-announced deal. Those include joint Iranian and Omani management of the passage's exit route and collection of voluntary fees from vessels, even if the money is used for security and maritime environmental protection. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry said Tuesday that the Iranian-Omani deal could pave the way for Washington and Tehran to return the negotiations for a comprehensive and permanent deal that addresses all concerns and enhances regional security and stability. The statement came after a meeting between Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel and Omani counterpart Badr al-Busidi. The 60-day negotiating period ended this week. The 60-day negotiating period ended this week between the U.S. and Iran, with no clear to the war in sight. Ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz dropped significantly last week, with confirmed crossings falling 19.5% to 95 transits. Only 3 vessels made it through this waterway on Sunday, according to shipping data platform Kepler. Crossings through Bab el-Mandab Strait increased 6.7% to 254 transits, while so-called dark transits, in which ships turn off the transponders that broadcast their location, fell from 40 to 16.
Welcome back. And Dr. Yasser, as we have just seen in this report, that international and regional efforts are taking place now. They are trying to end the attacks and prevent further escalation between U.S. and Iran. How do you see the recent developments?
I think the recent development is still as it is. What is happening now is trying to escalation for de-escalation. So every party is trying to win the highest ceiling of requirements, or to enforce the highest ceiling of requirements in which to gain, let's say, 60% of it, so everybody is winning. So technically we are in a situation now, there is no winner, no loser. Everybody is bargaining about what sort of benefit they are trying to do. What's happening, there is a contradicting direction that we are having. The U.S. wants the Hormuz Strait to be under full U.S. control and management, administration, and so on. While there is another trend in Oman, Iran, in addition to the authority of British Maritime, have a joint effort or a joint administration to control and support the Hormuz Strait, versus each party from U.S. and Iran separately claiming they are having the full control on Hormuz. But the readings say there is less traffic coming from Hormuz Strait, and lots of precautions that's happening. Insurance is not covering full thing. So practically everybody is bargaining. Nothing new is happening. The U.S. is trying now to shift the power because due to lots of military issues they are concerned about, to apply more economic stress over Iran. Why Iran by nature used to do that, so they are not having something new on them. So
they are used to economic sanctions.
Yeah, they are used to economic sanctions. They are used to have no money, no food, no whatever. it is a tradition in the country now. So for them, it's a part of their fight against imperialism in their thoughts and so on. But the U.S. unfortunately doesn't have a clear direction. We can see that the presidency is having one direction, while Jill Vance is having another direction, is to open the Hormuz Strait and to control the energy market, while Trump is speaking about being as a businessman more, which is he like to control everything. The problem is Hormuz Strait is not a realistic project to be controlled or managed. It has to be diplomatically and politically managed first before everything. So there are lots of contradicted directions. Everybody is trying to influence his part, but most common, the direction of Oman-Iran deal will go on easier and let's say quicker.
So, sir, after the 60-day deadline and had the U.S.-Iranian negotiations, you see can enter a new phase, or there is no hope?
Actually, there is a schedule, but it was misled by, to be honest, with the media direction. The 60 days was to put a framework of arrangements to be discussed in separate. That means to put the 14 points of discussions, each point to have a schedule of discussion to start after that. So in the 60 days, they should have an overall skeleton of arrangements of what details or depth of details needed for each point, and then they can go for that. Practically, once you go for details, everybody is having his own interest, of course, and there are lots of conflicting points in that. So it's a common base that it will be hard, let's say, to continue in our figures, but what they are trying to do now is to send a message there is no agreements, but most common we are having side agreements or let's say under table arrangements, versus we can see that all of those escalations make everybody doesn't care about other regions. As we can see that the West Bank is escalated massively, Gaza is escalated massively, and we can see that Israel is taking large parts in Syria, controlling lots of Syrian regions, if not by land forces, it will be by air forces. And actually there was a side escalation that happened between Israel and Turkey already. So practically there is something we can see, which is the problems in between Iran, US and so on, but there is another part that we are not taking care of massively, which is what Israel is doing that. So I think there is a power balance, or there is certain arrangement that will escalate there, in which Israel can do whatever she like in the other direction.
Yes, you were talking to me about Israel is attacking Lebanon,
Syria, Gaza
at the same time,
and massively taking parts of it. So if we can see that in Tantawy, up to the hills of that is overseeing Damascus is really controlled by Israel. Israel long arm of air force is attacking Aleppo and so on, in attacking the Turkish base there and flat it again. So there are lots of issues people are silent or not taking its fight in the media and the channel and so on, which is by intention. It's happening by intention. It's like the price that the US is paying, in which Israel will not attack Iran and escalate everything again. So there are lots of power balances, and I believe the three of Iran, US and Israel is having a certain arrangement in place, and they are trying to make it as a fact. In addition to that, we can see that why everybody is silent about why Kurds are not supporting all of that movement. It's full silent. So there are lots of political under table arrangements is happening. It is not shown, and what's happening now is try to cover up all of the side area, and out of the cloud we'll find everything is already settled somewhere or another, so everybody will be happily by shock, let's say. It will be a shock in the market later on. So it's a big game. It's a political game.
So, sir, though negotiations over Hormuz represent the gateway to contain the U.S.-Iranian conflict,
there is, as we said, there are two directions. U.S. wants a full administration, and I think President Trump a few months ago stated that he wants it's under U.S. administration versus 20% tariffs. While
do you think that this can really happen?
For them, they can propose that. That means they are asked, let's have part of the deal. This is what, regardless of the percentage, the U.S. is having like a bombshell in which they can have, let's say, to penetrate the decisions how we need to have a part of the deal. While Iran and Oman is trying to have a side deal. That's why that makes the U.S. administration a little bit angry from Oman, because they are trying really to de-escalate. So it was funny. The U.S. is attacking Oman because they are trying to de-escalate that situation. So, but that's why it is obvious that it's all about economic benefits. So the U.S. want to take part of the deal. It's a big price for them, actually. So they right take it like this. Versus Oman and Iran are, let's say, in majority they have certain deal already in place somehow, and it is under execution in the coming days. So we will find that that direction is going up, which makes the U.S. administration not happy with the situation. That's why they are trying to attack Oman direction and so on. All of that, U.S. doesn't want that to happen the easy way, or the soft way, in which they can give more time to Israel to do actions in the region they are taking up. So it's a message. Let's keep Israel happy while keep everybody is something else, and the U.S. is not engaged by military forces, and we can see that in the last few weeks there are lots of military concerns about the capacity utilization and so on, about the forces, ammunition support.
So now the conflict moves to the Strait of Hormuz, with power.
So it's becoming
controls the, yes.
Yeah, it's becoming the control of Hormuz. So it is not about nuclear deal.
Yes.
Now it's not about missile. It's coming back to the, which is weird, before the war, which is the whole deal was open.
Yes.
So now everything is speaking. The main concern now is Hormuz. Nuclear deal, so it doesn't exist.
Yes.
But there is a side message that out of the sun, out of the clouds, was shown up in the last 2 weeks. You need to have pay attention very carefully. Of course, Israel is not happy with that. So out of the sudden, they discovered uranium in Syria. Okay, and the International Atomic Association is going to move that uranium, enriched uranium, to another site. That uranium was already bombed in 2007 by the Israeli forces, and it should be destroyed by that time. So out of the sun, they discovered the uranium. And of course, the claim of who is supporting previously Hafez al-Assad regime, it was Iran. So it's like to enrich that message again, in which to have a reason for escalation. So of course, everybody will tell Israel, okay, be more happy, take more lands, do whatever you like. So there is a certain direction which is hidden. It's obvious for everybody, but I think we have a formal denial that everybody recognizes what's happened. The U.S. want not to get engaged more in military actions, because they are not competent with that currently. They not have the full capacity with that currently because of those diversified issues, and it impacted the supply chain, while the Israeli is doing whatever they like. And the message about the enriched uranium, it was weird a little bit, because everybody knows it was there from 2007. Why so you cannot say we discovered it now. So it was a very strange message.
So do you think that Hormuz was the main aim?
Yeah. They need to get a company. Now there is a company is happening, and I think we mentioned that 2 months ago about it will end up with a deal between Iran, Oman, and the British Maritime Organization, that they will manage all of that. Versus the U.S. want a pure U.S. administration, and maybe getting some benefit to supporting countries, which is not happening this way. We cannot open that way, because we have another strain, which is Malacca strain. So I think U.S. is doing that scenario, what would be the Malacca strain, to control the Chinese maritime industry. So there are lots of political. So now it's like we are having experiments, lab experiments by them strain. Okay, because what the U.S. is having a message to the Navy, if you remember 2025, that they need to control all maritime strains or resources. Actually, they did it in Panama last year. Now they are doing it in Hormuz. They are doing it indirectly through the strength of Glititar in Spain.
So they are trying to control all
water resources, to control the entire, and that's the message that was presented officially by Trump 2025. And it was a message to the NATO to take control of that, and they have already for that. So they are doing what they said already. So, but it was obvious. But I think lots of people didn't pay attention for details. That's it. That's why what I believe.
So, sir, at what extent can regional mediations by Oman, Qatar, Pakistan bring Washington and Tehran back to negotiations? As we've just seen that Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati was holding talks with his Omani counterpart to discuss the latest developments. So, how do you see the role of mediators?
We need to be a little bit realistic with all respect to Pakistan, Turkey, and
Oman.
all of other Oman and so on. The only country that has influence with Iran will be Oman and Egypt.
Yes.
Okay, because they have direct conversation. It is a clear, honest, direct conversation, which is not used to. Pakistan is doing that discussion because they like to safeguard their ball, because if something happened, Baluchistan area and so will be under turbulences, and so Pakistan is doing it from national security perspective. They have very good negotiators. We need that. We need to understand that. But there is no winning cards with Pakistan, because still Pakistan is having its own interest to stabilize its own region, but they are not taking it from regional perspective. Even Pakistan, as we know, it asked for a payback from UAE, Saudi Arabia and so on. They have a payback already by loans and so on. So it is a commercial deal. With Egypt and Oman, it was not a commercial deal. It's pure politics, and fortunately, we all understand that Iran is respecting the value and all the values of Egypt and so on. It was presented by the minister several times, because at least Egypt is we cannot say neutralized country, but it is looking for the benefit of everybody without causing damage to any. So they like to have everything stabilized from Egyptian perspective, but without having any more damage to everyone. So the perspective of Egypt is clear. Oman, of course, because they have very good relation politically with Oman from before, so there's nothing bad about that, of course. So, but for Pakistan, it's strange. Turkey also was engaged in diplomacy because of their part of the. So Iran is not a stupid country. They understand that the interests of each country, where they are going and how they will do. So that's why we are relying in full in Oman discussions and the direction of Egypt to lead the other countries, because we need to understand what influence does Saudi Arabia or Bahrain or Kuwait or UAE even over Iran. Technically, no. There is no added value they can focus on. There is no clear relations, and we are seeing lots of political and diplomatic issues that's happening. Even the last phase, the conflict that happened between Iran and Qatar, then Iran and Kuwait, about the missing pilots and the missing soldiers, and so Iran is also stressing on that.
So, sir, to what extent this war is affecting the Gulf area?
Already affected.
Yes, it's still affected.
The problem is to which extent we can say there's a major backdraft, which is things will not be back again as normal.
Yes, it will take some time.
No, it will not go back. This is it. So if we are speaking, the region was 100%. When it come back to life, it will not exceed 65. We can say that the current economic situation worldwide and the current political let's say umbrellas and situation worldwide, the balance of powers worldwide will not allow the Gulf region to revive more than 65%, in which to take all controls and everything in the hand of other countries like the US. So US is influencing more power to control things from economic perspective purely, but they will not allow to, because what they are looking for is typically what we're looking for since 2010, which is to make the Middle East a region where for deported people coming from Europe, at least people coming from Europe, US, and so on. So it will be like
they are paying the price for this war.
Yeah. So they are trying to make the Middle East like the nursery for all rejected, let's say rejected people from Europe and so on to stay there, because as we can see that Europe like to get out of Europe all people they don't need from Africa, other countries, and so they should go. So this is, let's say, a nursery to do that, because with the economic turbulences, it will be a very nice infrastructure for terror groups and so on to start acting again only in the region. So it's very strange. It's a nursery for, let's say, lots of coming issues, unfortunately.
And how do you see Egypt's support to the Gulf countries, continuous support to them at this critical time?
We can say Egypt as an anchor in stabilization, because it tried to make not a mediator, but a mediator with influence. So it's like we are influencing a direction of how to play politics. The most common problem is we need to understand that the entire Middle East is new in politics. If you compare that the Age of Nations, Egypt is the only country that has history in diplomacy. We cannot say 100 years or 200 years, 4,000 years. And then the last 100 years we've proven that the outright diplomacy winning part to a certain extent, which is highly respected from other nations. So everybody knows that there is a raw or very childish political actions happening in the Middle East, which is not yet grown up as adult political, let's say, coverage. Especially the Middle East was lying of having money or economic power factor. But the problem is all of that now is in the hands of the US. It's always, when it's all in bonds, all in central banks of Europe, US, and so on. So there is no real power. You can claim you have power, but it doesn't mean you can control. It's like you have a car in a nice garage, but when you go out, you must take the key from the security down there, and sometimes he will not give it to you. That's very simple. And if you go out, he will tell you go out more than 20 minutes or you will not be able to come back. So you will have the car, you cannot access to your home. So this is what's happening now. It's all about being a garage. So it's a funny, let's say, approach, but this is what's really happening.
Yes.
Even you have billions, but you cannot have access to it, and you cannot control except part of the commercial activities and so on, as partial of the interest rates and so on. And all of those investments and so on, it came up to have a burden actually now. So now everybody is paying the price of not raising a political power in real and not use economic power and money power. It was not economic power, it was not even financial power. It was money power.
Yes.
If we have a problem with this country, we'll pay the money to keep silent. If we have somebody, let's say, kidnapped in another country, we'll pay money others. So there is the power of money, which is not a political power at all. It's not considered. It's a tool, not a power.
Yes, I'd like to thank Dr. Yasser, Tantawy, international relations expert. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And now we'll go for a short break and our daily press review, so stay tuned.